All righty. Look like we're gonna go ahead and start this work session, but before we get started, I just want to say a few words to council members. There are three meetings that council should make it a priority to attend. One is the council retreats, the other one is staff evaluations, and the budget meetings. Our staff put a lot of time, energy, and effort into preparing for these meetings. And when we don't show up, it's to a certain degree disrespectful. So I'm hoping that as we move forward, all council will take these meetings seriously and attend. Tonight, we have two council members who are not here. Councilor Jackie Vigil, Councilor Michael Carson. Councilor Jackie Vigil is sick. I reached out to both of them today and let them know my concerns of them not being in attendance today. I offered them to attend via Zoom. They both refused. Councilor Jackie Vigil is still sick. She just let me know that she's not going to be able to attend by Zoom, but she will attend. She will watch the Zoom meeting tomorrow. Councilor Michael Carson said that he was traveling out of town. So I just want you all to know as we move forward, make sure that you focus. We are notified months in advance of all three of those different types of meetings. So there's really no reason to miss those meetings. If you got to go out of town, we can prepare around those types of events like that. So I just wanted to make sure we're clear because it seems like council members are feeling a little bit too freely with missing important meetings like this. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to our city manager. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is our first budget meeting, and depending on how tonight goes, we may not need the second work session we had reserved for budget, but don't worry, we have backfill topics for that work session. So we do want to try to get through, though, everything tonight. If you open up your binders in front of you, the first page, these aren't the ones we necessarily spend a lot of time, but it's to try to help give you just an overview of kind of the big picture. And then we start drilling down type of thing. So overall, we're projecting revenue for 2026 to be 41,875,649. You can see the breakdown as far as taxes, intergovernmental revenue, which is grants, charges for services, those different types of breakdowns. The next page shows for budget expenditures to be 47 million. This is about 5 million more than the revenue we're bringing in, and that's mainly it's all because of the CIP projects. Some big ones continuing over from 2025, but then also some big ones we had been planning and saving up for as well. So that's why there is a difference. You can see the breakdown as far as capital is a big chunk, that green. Which I think is always important because that's a lot of the tangible stuff that the community and the residents see. And then you have operations, personnel, and benefits, and then some of the other smaller items. So then when we kind of go a little bit more, if you go to the tab that is estimated fund balance, because we always want to make sure we know kind of what might happen to the fund balance. And so again, this is what we're projecting based on how things are going right now and what's in the budget and the amended 2025 budget, as well as then the 2026 budget. Probably that smaller, more square-like table is the one that's of most interest. So you can see the activity in the general fund, the expenses will reduce that fund balance by about 2 million. The enterprise fund balance will be reduced by about 2 million. There's some small increases in some of those other fund balances, and then also then some decreases for Conservation Trust Fund, Employee Benefit, Community Rec, and Enterprise Debt Service. But you can see right to the right of them that there's still a healthy fund balance for all of those different ones. So the first graph is our 10-year plan. So you can see how everything we've done thus far, and then putting in the 2026 budget plus certain estimates for the years going out, what the budget or the 10-year fund looks like. We do still stay above that blue, which is the minimum fund balance that we need to have. If you flip, you can see a scary enterprise fund. Similar to last year, it's a hard thing to show what is happening in 2033 because we know we have significant wastewater treatment plant improvements that we need to make. And we also know that we're probably going to look at taking a renewal of that utility sales tax to help fund some of those. But until that's passed, it's hard to know how those things are going to be funded. So that's why the graph looks pretty scary. Obviously, if the tax doesn't pass, we can try to keep moving the stuff down, but at some point it does become something that you can start getting sanctions for. So they are pretty big projects. Our favorite one is our Parks and Recreation Fund. You can see that this is probably the tightest one in regards to, there is really nothing in the foreseeable future that's concrete. And so it's just extremely tight type of situation from a funding perspective. We've moved a lot of the debt service to the general fund, and they're still limited to just about 200,000 a year from a capital perspective. So it's a very extreme tight budget.
What's the difference between Series 1 and Series 2?
That's just the Series 1 blue lines. That's where we're projecting that we're gonna stand. Series 2 is.
The required fund balance. Yeah,
it's a
we
percentage.
just didn't name those.
Yeah, sorry, I hadn't noticed.
Yeah. Okay, are we good, Andy, or?
Projecting would, so that's why it's, but like other ones are greater and the red line's lower. If it was proportional in terms of a required reserve, wouldn't that match up better? Do you understand?
I do understand what you're saying. I'm gonna have to look at that.
Okay, so then moving to where we do the bullet points. So just as a reminder, the department heads start with their staff at building what they project to be the needs for 2026. Then they meet with Leanne and I, and then we, take a look at potential changes or questions and those types of things. And then you get what you have before you tonight. But it is an ongoing basis. Overall, we're actually pretty excited about this. We are including in here a pay for performance increase of up to 4%. I can tell you we were pretty scared that we weren't going to be able to do anything, and you'll see a little bit why. We do not have enough for a COLA type of thing. Per our compensation policy, our COLA is supposed to be tied to the 5-year average of the CPI, which would equate to 4.5% for 2025. As we looked forward, the 10-year forecast includes 4% for 2027, 2028, and 3% for 2029 and beyond. Obviously, if sales tax can perform better, we can adjust those numbers as we go, but we do have increases built into the 10-year.
Let me turn my little thing on. In the 10-year forecast, is that just the pay for performance forecast, or does that include COLA as well?
It's just a percentage increase, so we can decide if we want it to be COLA, pay for performance, or a combination thereof.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question too. Can I assume that you weren't doing the COLA because you didn't have enough to cover the COLA? Is that why you went for pay for pay for performance?
We were gonna have to do one or the other, and I think based on kind of what our needs are from an organization, the pay for performance seemed to fit better.
My question on that is, does that hurt though in the long run where COLA tries to keep us up to where we need to be on it, even, you know, for everybody? And if it's pay for performance, do we then, and since we're not doing the COLAs, will some people, it start to catch up to us because then they're gonna be below where they should be?
So,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
kinda?
so my philosophy is you don't want to go multiple years just doing one type. So if you can only do one for several years, I would recommend we go back and forth because the COLA, as you said, keeps you up with the market. But if we don't do pay for performance, then we're hiring people on closer to people who've been here longer type of thing. So you're not pushing them further away from the starting pay. So they serve two different purposes from that perspective.
So with that in mind, you're making that adjustment year after year, going back
Yeah,
and
so
forth.
last year we were able to do both.
Got it.
So this is the first year in a few that we haven't been able to do both.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the difference there is that a COLA moves the entire bracket up?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to.
And the pay for performance would be determined by each department head.
It's based on the employee's performance.
On their
Yeah, so
performance.
their individual performance. So their supervisor would evaluate them. We've got standard forms, there's numbers, they get rated. And then based on what that final number is, how it would determine what percentage increase they get.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And so we're still in this category that kind of hits every single division. So the next thing is we do not have an increase for dental insurance. There's a slight decrease for vision insurance and a 2.5% increase for medical insurance. So that was very good. General operations after 2026 in the 10-year plan, we have a 3% growth cost increase in those. Sales tax growth projections in the 10-year plan for the first time were adjusted because of what our projections are looking like. So we reduced it from that standard 3% growth per year to just 1% growth for 2027 through 2029, 2% for 2030, and then back up to the 3% for 2031 and beyond. We don't think we're coming out of this quickly type of thing. So now when we start getting into the divisions, we're only going to really talk about anything that's more than 10,000 change, or if it's something I know that's kind of been of interest to council type of thing. So when we start with general fund revenue, our general sales tax is budgeted to decrease by about 41,000, which is a negative 1%. We are also, though, on the 1.2% sales tax, budgeting that to increase by about 56,000, which is a 1%. So one has been trending okay, and one has been trending not okay. And we wanted to do we didn't want to just put 0 for both. We wanted to put what they were actually trending as. Counselor?
What's the difference? General sales tax versus,
The general is collected within city limits
All right.
only. The 1.2 is collected countywide.
thank you.
Mhm. We are projecting a $20,000 increase in our electric franchise. Major grant projects, you can just, as a reminder, we've talked about them a lot, but there they are. And then with Holly, well, the municipal court's kind of rocking and rolling, but also our new collection agencies actually bringing some of the revenue back in. So we have a $20,000 increase for municipal court fines. City council, we do not have anything above or below a $10,000 change. Same for legal. Municipal court has a $38,000 increase due to getting that JAG grant. There's not a change, a $10,000 change in the public engagement, but I know that council's very focused on that, engaging with the public. So just a reminder of the breakdown. We've got the quarterly newsletter. If there is some type of neighborhood outreach, swag for our First Fridays and farmers market, and then just miscellaneous.
Yeah, I want to make a note that we should continue to do those things like you're doing because it is making a big difference. I'm quite sure all the council that are experiencing, seeing a bit of success. So thank you.
Great. So in the city clerks, we were going to create a new line item, and I want to call it advisory board training that would have $5,000 in it. And this isn't in this one, but if you're agreeable to it, it'll be in the one that you vote on. This would be very limited. But we do right now, I could say we have 3 boards and commissions that it would be valuable if one member was allowed to go to a state conference. And so, for example, I know for our historic preservation, Don Thompson in the past has wanted to attend a conference. And having someone see what's going on at the state level and being able to bring that knowledge back. Main Street Committee is, as you guys know from that presentation, starting that certification process. And one of the key pillars for that certification is the organization, which means you need your board to be well-trained on the concepts of the or Main Street type of stuff. So that's another one. And then the Creative District Board, there's a state creative conference. And as we go for certification, being able to have someone like Laris attend that, I think would be extremely helpful too. But again, it's not going to be wide open to everyone. It would be very limited where we think there's a very specific need met, and it would require city manager approval. HR risk management, we are undertaking a required ADA study. This evaluates our facilities and our city infrastructure and identifies where there needs to be improvement. So this is required, and so there is $105,000 for outside services for a consultant. There's a chance it might be a little bit less than that, but that's kind of what the RFPs were averaging. So we're hoping for less. We also then have a 52,000 increase in our insurance for property casualty and liability. This is CIRSA. If we're getting newer vehicles, more vehicles, the buildings, just different things like that.
Can I ask a question? I apologize. I'm going to go back for a sec.
Okay.
On the municipal court, it's a 38,000 increase due to getting the JAG grant. So I guess I'm confused. If we're getting the JAG grant, how come there's an increase?
Because we record the JAG grant and revenue, and then the expenses show up in the division, the department.
And this is something we normally don't do?
We didn't have it for this year, but we had it the year before.
Hence why it's showing the increase or the 10,000 difference.
Well, it's a $38,000 increase, but yes, okay.
Why would, well, I was just curious because if it's something we do on a regular basis, why it was showing, but you're saying 1 year it didn't show up. So that's why we're seeing it because it
Yes.
wasn't in last year's.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For non-departmental, 67,000 decrease in debt service. Is this the one that's changing? So this actually needs to change. So I'm just gonna show you guys a little bit. So when Leanne and I meet with the department heads, we come out of those meetings with notes that look like this. Like, you can imagine every line item and some of the little notes. So every once in a while, there is a note that gets past both Leanne and myself, and this is one of them. The current debt service for the leasing of the mowers and all of that was coming to an end, but we needed to then put in what's going to be a new lease. So essentially, this wouldn't be a bullet here, and it should be the same type of thing, where one lease is ending and a new one's picking up for pretty much the same.
So does the 67,694 stay here or is it?
Correct. It's gonna stay in the budget, so there won't be the decrease.
Okay. Okay, so it's gonna be flatline. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yep. So from an information technology perspective, there is about a 33% or 33,000 increase in software. Some of that's just, we removed some software that's no longer needed. Some prices just have their kind of regular type of increase. Of note, there is about 17,000 more from a public safety software perspective. There's about 1,000 in there for Common Look for the ADA document remediation. And you might be like, well, Heather, why are you listing something for 1,000? Is this the really exciting one? Did I get this correct? Or, oh, what's the exciting one? Yeah.
The exciting one is Access Docs that we are combining with our website. Access Docs is a layer that sits on top of our website that provides an accessible window essentially into the PDF documents that are already on there that dramatically decreases the amount of time that we would have to spend in manually remediating those documents. Included in that is an indemnity for if something happened with the software and it was not able to provide an accessible document. And there was a suit that was derived from that. As far as the impact that that has on our team and our staff in general is tremendous amounts of man hours. Think about an hour, anywhere 30 minutes to an hour per page, not per document, per page of a document. That's thousands and thousands of pages that we have already on our website. Allows us to keep that information on there, which has been a major goal is this ADA law has unfortunately kind of added a barrier in transparency between us and the public. So being able to keep those documents on there, being able to provide it in an accessible and actually a much more fun way, because it includes the option to like just ask a question about this document and it'll answer directly using artificial intelligence to summarize a document. Anyway, I'm pretty excited about it. I know Heather's pretty excited about it, and it's going to be a pretty big asset to the
If you
city.
guys go back in your memories a few years when that law came out and we were struggling on how we were going to meet it and what kind of risks did we want to assume and all of that this is a game changer. So we're really, really excited. The other bullet that's listed there that we're super excited about is the Text My Gov software. I read in the paper where Monta Vista had adopted this, and thankfully Brandon also provides IT services there. It's a really neat service that we are looking at getting and starting in January 1st of 2026. It would allow us to send text, but then it also allows people to text us. And you can even on a map, say if we're doing street construction, we can identify that area and send a text that street construction is starting type of thing. So we're really excited about this one too.
I have a quick question on that one. The price that you have for it, is that an annual charge or is that
Yes.
just a startup with a maintenance fee coming after?
It's an annual, but I think the second year is like slightly lower, but it is an annual
Okay,
thing.
thank you.
So economic development, as I was sitting in the CML's conference in the creative district as an economy and an economic driver, something that came to me is the concept of how do you support the arts? How do you walk the talk? How do you help support the recognition of creative industry and economic development? And then you've got the downtown. Something that came to my mind is the chamber's effort of the sponsorships for those murals. And if we could allow the creative district to partner with the chamber and sponsor a mural, that just kind of seems to bring a lot of it all into one kind of project. So that's what that is, but it's a one-time expense. That one time's in there. Police administration, nothing, no changes. Police operations, we've got a $10,000 increase for state patrol dispatching. And then we are taking out the lead line item that was showing up in police operations. And instead we're creating the lead division. So there's a 585,000 change there.
Can I ask a question on that? I'm obviously jumping ahead because I saw that. So it says 585 for police operations and then just slightly over 505 for the lead. So what's happening to that other
So
70,000?
the issue is we do our budgets on the calendar year and the state contract is for the state fiscal year. So for the fiscal year we're in now for the state, they had reduced it down to 505.
Got it.
Fire operations, as you know, with our call volume and the ability of employers to allow employees to volunteer from the 8 to 5, Monday through Friday is becoming more and more challenging. And so we know that at some point, we're going to trigger just certain response times that mean we need to go to a combo department. And what that means is we would still rely on volunteers, but we hire maybe 3 or 4 full-time employees to cover those shifts that are the hardest. So you can still get some volunteers responding during that time, but we're supplementing it with some full-time. So it's a combination department. Knowing that that is coming up on us, beginning in 2031, Leanne and I have started putting some placeholders in their salary section in case we need to start hiring some full-time type of thing. So we're trying to anticipate that. The Fire Explorer program is obviously continuing, but instead of trying to fund it from pulling a little bit from uniforms and a little bit from training and a little bit from there, we're just creating a line item for it. So that way there's just much more transparency in what it actually costs. The vehicle repair, we are doing a reduction of 10,000. This is one of those line items that there's like 1 year will be 2,000, and then if something happens to the ladder truck, it's 50,000. It's a hard one, but we don't want to put too much in there because then that gets multiplied out into the 10-year and it just starts doing other stuff. So we reduced it down, but then obviously if there's any repairs over the budget amount, we'll handle that with a budget adjustment. And then we did a $50,000 increase in the transfer out because in 2038, we need to buy an aerial truck, which is the most expensive one. So we're saving up for that. Police support services. There's a $15,000 elimination of the co-responder grant expenses because the grant ends in 2025. And then it's actually 3,600 less than 2025, but just since homeless is quite the topic, it's a $22,000 budget for the homeless support, and you can see the breakdown of what goes into that. There still is a smaller electricity bill, but that's because of our cameras and that stuff, not because we're providing electricity. That's part of where the reduction is. And then we've got a new division. So you'll see, it has its own line items, and it is for lead. And so it has about 505,000 in there. We're still kind of finessing that, but we're getting it pulled together. Development services. We moved the building inspector, which used to be in a division called building inspector / facilities. We moved the building inspector out of that division and put it into development services because that's where he's actually housed. And now facilities is actually reporting to Harry. So we just separated those out. So facilities is going to be a standalone division. And we took the building inspector and put it into development services. So you'll see just some minor changes of pulling those costs and putting them over here. There's 400,000 in there for the comprehensive plan. There's the breakdown of some of the major pass-through expenses. Okay. For Public Works Administration, no changes. For street maintenance, so it was actually just a $3,000 increase. But as Andy and I work on his budget and we struggle with such a tight budget, we wanted to be much more transparent how much it costs for some of these special events. And not to say we shouldn't be doing them, but we need to understand what the costs are. And you'll see that when we get to the community rec. But as far as overtime for street maintenance, it's about 18,000, and most of that is related to special event activity.
So is that coming out of Andy's budget?
No,
Oh,
but it hits different places.
got it.
Yep.
Okay.
And then just a 10,000 reduction in electrical gas based on trending. So then, as I explained, the building inspection and facilities has been changed to just facilities. And there's no other changes in there other than removing the cost of the building inspector out. Fleet maintenance, saw a reduction of 30,000 because they completed a 2025 project for building repair. Cemetery is none. Park maintenance, we've got a $5,000 increase to landscaping and beautification for the creation of a new tree trimming public program. So where this comes from is, Counselor Dominguez and I, when we have our one-on-ones, we usually spend some time talking about how some people in our community struggle and where are areas that it's appropriate for the city to think about overlap, and there's areas that the city doesn't provide services that would help for some of those struggles. And one of the things we talk about also is sometimes the differences, that perceived differences between the north side, the south side, and those types of things. And so in one of those conversations, he talked about the struggle people have maintaining trees, to even know how they need to be maintained, who is reliable to call. And you don't want to call someone that then butchers them type of situation, and all of that. And so one of the ideas we had is if we model this slightly like the concrete program that we have, to where we would have the professional, and it would be a cost share perspective, it would maybe allow homeowners to better maintain the trees and not become a nuisance type of thing. So that's what that is.
So I have a question on that one.
Mhm.
So as sometimes you'll drive and then all of a sudden you don't see a stop sign or things like that because the tree gets too big or whatever. So would that be a situation where, I'm assuming then you tell the homeowner they need to cut their tree because it's,
Yes.
and so let's say somebody says, I struggle to be able to pay for that, those type of situations then?
It could be something like that. I think also going back to the conversation when we were having it, it's imagining too some of the even larger trees, to where it's not just the nuisance from a sidewalk, but it's going over the neighbor's yard, or it's coming close to the house, or just some different things like that type of thing as well. So there's no thought into the qualifications yet, the amounts, none of that. It's just an idea at this point in time.
Follow-up question, is that something that the tree board could assist with?
That's exactly what we were hoping
Okay,
for.
cool.
Yep. We created a new line item for the clock and train pavilion maintenance. And so there's just times we need to make repairs to the clock and or the train, and it doesn't really fit in anywhere, and those other line items are pretty tight. So we just created a new line item. And then this bullet is not there, but this is one other item, a note that snuck past Leanne and I, is we will have a $30,000 for lease payments for parks mowers as well. When we run the numbers, it's better for us to do a lease on some of these mowers than purchase them, type of situation. Enterprise fund revenue. So every other year, we get 65,000 because one of the water districts has a contract with us to use our accretion credits. And so 2026 is one of those years. The utility rates are based on the ordinance you guys have already passed. And so there's the breakdown. It's 5% for each of those. You can see the dollar amount. And then as a reminder, in 2026, we are doing a rate analysis. But interestingly, Harry was contacted by an individual who's trying to start his own business and kind of leave the company he was with, who's willing to do it for free. So we're gonna do that. Harry has spent a lot of time vetting to make sure we think we'll get a good product. But worst case, if we don't, then we just put in the cost for a rate study and pay for it. So 2016 was the last and first ever rate analysis. So we're really looking forward to that. $10,000 projected increase in sewer tap fees. And then we were able to clean up our relationship with East Alamosa. And so we no longer have to provide some of the response times and all of that kind of stuff for their infrastructure. So that will be a $60,000 elimination of the monthly fees, but a much bigger savings on staff time. Right, Harry? Harry is shaking his head. Water Department, 25,000 reduction in the lead copper program. And then a $20,000 increase in the meter repairs because the 10-year battery life on a lot of the meters are coming to an end. The Sewer Department, 5,000 is still included for the storm drain maintenance for murals. Sanitation Department, there's a 13,000 reduction in gas and oil just based on the trending history. Wastewater treatment, we are adding a new FTE. As you guys know, succession planning has been extremely important because those who have the right certifications to operate both treatment plants might retire at some point or move on. And so Harry's been focused on succession planning. We had one employee, Cody, who has gone and it's a Class B now for water treatment.
The requirement is a Class A, and he's currently at a Class C, which
Oh,
he can
Steve.
actually be an operator, just not the ORC.
Okay. But we kind of, there for a few years, Cody was going back and forth between water and wastewater. And so this year we're kind of like, okay, you need to pick, because then we want to build that up, but then we need to start thinking about the one you don't pick. So the one he didn't pick is wastewater treatment. So that's why we're adding the FTE there to then start certification for an employee from succession planning. 75,000 is in removal of the biosolids. This is done every year, 3 years. So 2026 is on track for that removal. And then a 10,000 reduction in electrical and gas services.
I have a question. So it
Mhm.
appears that we have a lot of reductions in gas and electric throughout the budget so far. Is that due to us using less or are prices going down?
So I think we're more efficient, but also I think it was 2 years ago, Excel had implemented an increase. So we started making those adjustments a few years ago, and now we're seeing it trending where it didn't go up quite as much as we expected. So we're starting to pull that back down.
Got it. Thank you. I was just noticing that.
So then on water treatment, we moved Cody's position to the water treatment division. And then we've got a $20,000 increase in treatment and chemicals. Cemetery endowment, no changes. Employee benefit, it's a $61,810 increase in major medical premium. $100,000 decrease in medical self-insurance. And then this is the same bullet. We continue to monitor our health reserve, and if it gets over 1.1, we designate a month as a premium or a holiday, premium holiday. Rec fund, we're projecting a 20,000 decrease in sales tax of 1%. We've got a 35,300 increase in the park and special events revenue, mostly because of taking on Summerfest. A $19,000 increase in fitness programs due to adding a second trainer. 50,000 increase in Gen Wild, but mostly that is pass through. 423 for the Raise grant, and then 10,000 increase in golf cart rental trails and fees. Library has a 10,000 one-time increase for office equipment and furniture. And then for community recreation, a part-time position is changed to full-time, and that half is covered by Gen Wild. And so obviously the future depends on the grant funding. There's a 10,000 increase in electrical and gas, so that's the opposite. 72,000 increase in Gen Wild pass-through, 22,000 decrease in Gen Wild city expenditures, and then $40,000 increase in special projects related to Summerfest. And special projects is where we do our community events out of. So just, you know, as I mentioned, being more transparent on how much some of these cost. Ice Fest is 40,000, and then we're anticipating combining Rio Trio and Summerfest based on the rec board at a cost of about 45,000. We may not see that much synergy. It might be ending up closer to 50, but we're hoping to see some synergy by combining them.
I have a question. So on the increase in the gas and electric, is that at the rec center or is it because of park stuff? Where's that increase coming
The
from?
rec center.
Oh, so it is the rec center itself?
Well, it's the rec and ice rink.
Fortunately, I don't see those bills, but I monitor the amount and, it must have just been trending up a little bit. But we also have a solar array out there. We are learning a little more about how all that works and seeing if there's any savings possible.
And the only
Darren's
reason I-
helping me.
the only reason why I ask that is because obviously if we're seeing the decreases and everything else and we're not changing our hours a whole lot, just wondering, because again, obviously the rec area, just trying to really watch that budget. And so just was curious where that was coming from.
Question. It goes along your questioning too. With the increase in the electrical and gas, are we addressing any of the needs that the rodeo grounds needs for their electrical setup?
So that's a more nuanced answer. When we began our conversations with them and they were engaged in giving us information, we thought the project was one thing. And then we kept running into issues with Excel and it didn't get done for this year, which then created the frustration for them. When they came and presented to the rec board following their presentation to council, their expectations on what they think needs to be done is significantly different now. And they think we need to do an electrical engineer, which would be more than what the budget was that we had for it. So Andy and I are gonna have a sit down with the organizers to say, hey, we need to just get our hands around what you think is needed at the fairgrounds. We'll show you what we've been planning from a budget number, and then how do we work together for something that's gonna be more? Because when they came to the rec board was pretty clear that we wanna be a good partner, but it's the only thing that uses the facility, and that everyone, they should be at the table too and trying to figure out some of these costs, considering there's 200,000 a year to go for everything from a Parks and Rec perspective.
Thank you.
I have a question on that then, is I would have to assume a bit of electricity and stuff is used when they do that rodeo. And so do they pay that bill?
We waive that now, right, as part of the,
They've never paid.
They've never
any
paid?
utility bill, but yeah, now they're not paying anything with the sponsorships.
And they're,
Um,
and do they pay to use it?
So as part of the sponsorship, that's what you guys are waiving. So when we
Yep.
do that, they apply to be sponsored by the city. We reduced the cash amount and then waived some of the, what we were paying them for sponsorship.
So I think that might be in that conversation, something to relook. I don't know how much that bill would be.
Well, we got a recent history,
Yeah,
so,
so
yeah.
if it's a substantial amount, that might be something to be brought up too into that whole situation.
Okay, golf course, 2026 is the last year of the extra FTE for succession planning. Britt will be retiring at the end of 2026. And then a $10,000 increase for sand, seed, and fertilizer. On Conservation Trust, $10,000 reduction in state lottery funds. And then of that fund, 95,000 is dedicated to the CIP. So before we go to the CIP and the outside funding, was there any questions on the operational side of things?
Not so much a question, but just a comment. I noticed the expenditures versus the revenue for the golf course, and they're doing quite well.
They are, but I always need to make sure that we are managing expectations. They are not covering their full costs.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we're good.
Okay, so if you go to the tab, that is the CIP, so it's second to last. So in between is all the line items. If you guys want to look at all that information, you can see the history and all of that. So similar to previous years, I'm not going to review the items you've already approved. So I'm only going to go over the items that have changed from what you approved last year because you've been approving 5-year CIPs. So the first one on the front page under streets is you will see under the unassigned maintenance that we have 420,000, which is higher than that normal 300. We knew we needed to save a little bit from this year to move forward because we need to do Del Sol Drive and Clark Street. And those were going to be somewhat of expensive and still do a few other things. So that is why that one's a little different. Thomas Avenue, because when we move forward a year, we need to fill in 2030 is the new column then for the 5-year CIP. So for 2030, we're looking at Thomas Avenue. And then under Hunt Avenue, we got a grant of 170,000, so that was added.
Can I ask a question? And it's probably not totally this. On the Second Street, that whole street, are we not finishing the Second Street?
Are you talking about from westward?
Yeah, where it's
No.
really bad.
So all that was identified was from Cole Park. It was actually broke up in 2 phases or 2 years, was from Cole Park to west. So no, we don't move forward until the next renewal if that area is chosen. So that's the end of Second Street.
Okay, thank you.
So if you turn the page to enterprise fund, on the blue, Park Smart Irrigation, continuing the smart irrigation into other parks. And then for the rest of the water augmentation, we kept trying to guess what year it was going to happen, and then we're moving it. So at this point, we're just putting it in unfunded, and we'll bring it forward once we know these pieces are actually happening. We're trying to get storage. It's working. The plan's working its way through the court system. So the amounts are mostly the same. But we're just putting them in unfunded instead of trying to guess the years anymore. Replace the sewer camera system is a new one. The old one is will not video the results, and so and repair is not an option. The Murphy sanitary lift station's just a carryover from 2025. We've been waiting on state approval. Adcock sanitary lift station was moved to unfunded because of the master utility plan. Golf course sanitary lift stations 1 and 2 is new for 2030. The master utility infrastructure plan for stormwater, we added 63,770 to complete the scope of work. Implementing the master utility plan for stormwater, we're trying to kind of just placehold some amounts. So once the plan is done, we can know what the highest priorities are and apply it to that. Bless you. The 3 alleys behind Main Street, we just flipped it. We thought we would do 2 this year and 1 in 2026. We're doing 1 this year and 2 in 2026. So we just flipped those amounts. Going over to page 2. The new contract we have for the membranes, we adjusted those prices to match the new contract. The water treatment plant chemical room repairs, we've rolled those amounts over and we're just waiting on engineering. And then we're carrying 125,000 over from 2025 for that arsenic treatment replacement engineering project. The screw pump motor and gearbox replacement, we increased it by 10,000 to include a coupler. The replace blower motor is new. We had an inspection and there's a recommendation to replace it. The new secondary treatment is moved to 2026. We're waiting, as you guys know, on that discharge permit to know what the changes need to be. And then the sample site building is a building to protect the equipment from vandalism and elements, so that's been added. The UV rebuild is needed in 2031, so you can see it's kind of showing as unfunded right now, but that is a new addition. And then we have a new cost estimate for the AC condensing unit and the dampener for 2029. Under street construction for utilities, the projects are mostly the same. There's just some fluctuations in some of the final costs now that we're starting to get the estimates.
Quick question.
Yes.
And I'm probably slow on the uptake. The color coding, so the yellow, does that just show what department that falls under?
That's Harry's
Was-
special little. Your mic's not on.
I don't know that there's a great rhyme or reason to a lot of it. I'm just very visual, and for me to pick out projects, I typically tie them together. So you got the street department, which is one funding. And then when you go to the enterprise fund for the utilities, I try to color code them the same, the projects the same, so you can track them easier. So.
Okay, my brain appreciates that. Thank you.
So at the end of the street enterprise, you can see where we've added Thomas Avenue. So we've got the estimates for 2030 for water, sewer, and storm that have been added in. Moving on to fleet, the replacing 2 patrol cars. I think George has been talking to Tim and fleet, and really we've done a good job of getting our fleet up to a pretty good level and quality. Because we used to go 2 cars each year for 3 years, and on the 4th year, we'd buy a 3rd one. We don't think we need to do that 3rd rotation anymore type of thing. So we've just made it to where it's 2 vehicles every year and then added a cost escalator because things go up in price. We used some of the savings from not doing that anticipated 3rd to help both for the lead co-responder vehicles and the detective vehicles that you see here. So it's not a 1-to-1, but it does help offset that somewhat. The 70,000 is to purchase 2 used vehicles for the lead co-responder programs. And then we also need to get a new detective vehicle.
So back to the replacing 2 patrol cars, shouldn't that change then? Instead of being 160,000, being 104,000?
No, because the upfit.
Correct. So originally that would have been 200 and like, we'll add 70,000, it would have been 230,000.
I know it says 52,000 per vehicle, but that's just, the note's misleading. That doesn't include the upfit.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
just, we should just
note
take
is-
that off.
Yeah, the note is misleading.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes. That's the vehicle only, and then the cage, the lights, everything else.
Around about how much is that usually per? car?
Around 28,000 per vehicle for upfitting.
God, wow, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. The IT truck is technically new, but they're selling the van, which covers the cost.
Question,
Yes,
bookmobile.
it's not in,
Well, I mean, wasn't the older IT van going to be?
they don't
discussed to
have
be-
money, they don't have money to buy it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, it is in the CIP.
Oh, is it in the CIP though?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still in the,
Oh, yeah, okay. I
Yeah,
just
misspoke.
to clarify.
Bookmobiles 50,000 in 2028.
Yeah.
So maybe we should talk if they want to buy the van.
It's very cool.
Is it
We'll
less than
talk.
$50,000?
It sure is. It's $28,000 exactly.
We'll talk.
We will talk. Okay. Street dump truck, the amount for 2030 is new. The truck mount paint machine is new, added and unfunded. The replace fire rescue one, was in 2025. It's been ordered, but we're not gonna get it until 2026. And then the fire chief's vehicle will need to be replaced, and so that is a new thing for 2030. Parks truck was moved from 2027 to 2028. It's the same price in there. And then a new bucket truck was added to the unfunded.
Just curious, when you have fleet and then you have more vehicles, oh, it's just a different, I saw.
It's the
fleet,
funds.
It's fleet. I got it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay. So flipping it, the fleet for enterprise. Harry did some switching around on some of the trucks and you can read that information. The sanitation trucks, we moved the one that was planned for 2028 up to 2027 because there's new emissions requirements coming that are going to make them more expensive. The message boards are new.
Can you explain what that is?
It's those, about a 4x8 LED programmable message boards where they can flash or give messages if it's in a head or road close to you.
The replace the recycle baler, we increased it by 100,000 and we moved it out of the unfunded. Then if you go to general fund, the IT technology, the new one is adding access control system. It's our electronic locks to 2029. They need to be replaced. And at some point, our phone system is going to need an upgrade, but we've got it in unfunded right now, estimated at 200,000. Under enterprise, we've got the water treatment plant SCADA upgrade. It's in the unfunded, but it was added to unfunded. Flipping the page. For facilities general fund, we had a slight increase in the carpet replacement for the bullpen at police. We moved out of unfunded the roof replacement at the police department. We moved that up to 2028. And then we've got, which is new, somewhat new. Previously, we had remodel of the old sanitation building, and that's what we were going to use for the evidence storage. So we took that and added 215,000. And now we're calling it the purchase and remodel of the second police facility. So we know it's not going to be the old sanitation. It will be a different building. Golf parking lot engineering. So the parking lot construction was in it before, but I guess we're adding the engineering now. And then the construction side, we moved it from 2025 to 2027, and we added 35,000 to that cost. The pro shop is new. At the golf course, the replacement of the doors, they're failing. And then we moved from 2027 to 2028, the gym curtain and basketball winches and automation. We reduced by 5,000 the fairgrounds announcer booth repair.
Question,
Yes.
two things. Happy to see that the sand and repaint of the floor in on the gym at the rec center, that's a good thing. But can you tell me why we need to replace the curtain?
It's just getting old, those motors and stuff,
Yeah.
and we're trying to balance. It's a heavy thing, that curtain, right? And it's been out of balance and it's pretty specialized on the engineering. So maybe it's just motors, but it might be a full curtain. So that amount is there for the curtain.
How about the main hoop on the east side? When you bring it down, it sounds like,
Right, yeah,
Like
no,
hell.
all those motors, we're hoping to have, nowadays in gyms, you can one button press those instead of a key, and those keys break, and I don't know if you've seen those systems, so we think the motors on the hoops are okay.
but we want to get automation in there and we'll make, if they're making noises, we'll do something about it.
Thank you, Andy.
Heating parks and cemetery, shops is new, added to 2029. Under facilities, cemetery endowment fund, it's new, adding the street paving at the cemetery. We have it in there as study, but we may also look to see what needs to be done and if we can use some of our overlay as an area for that as well, type of thing. The Spines building needs a roof replacement, so we've added that as new to unfunded. It's a little metal building that's behind the training center, kind of behind the post office. There's a mural of a cat and books on it. The cat's name is Spines. Yes. You didn't know that? This whole time you've been cracking your jokes and you didn't know that. Well, that's why the cat's name is Spines, but yeah. I don't know.
You know that?
Friends of the Library. I'm sorry. Yeah, Friends of the Library. It was technically the library cat, which wasn't allowed inside, but it was the library cat and it passed. But yeah, his name was Spines.
See if you tell jokes anymore. So, the carry, it's just ongoing, the Rio Grande pedestrian bridge. We might have to carry over the Cole Park path lights. They were scheduled for 2025. So some of this, there's just notes that identify if we're going after grants, but that doesn't mean they're new. So the Alamosa River project match, that is new, that 75,000 for 2027. The tennis and pickleball, we moved it up from 2028 and then we reduced it by 10,000. The additional baseball field to Carroll Park, that is new and we would seek about 300,000 in grants. The Parks Trails Lighting Study was moved from unfunded to 2028 and an increase of 5,000. The Riparian Park parking lot moved from 2027 to 2029, and there's a $10,000 increase. The Lee and Fairground LED conversion, we're going for a grant of 400,000, and that's only the phase 1 project cost. The Carroll Playground was previously unfunded, and so we've pulled it into 2030, and we've increased it to an estimated cost of 300,000, but it's grant dependent. And then the Cole Park Amphitheater pulled out of unfunded into 2030. And it's obviously grant dependent as well. The new grease tank lines at the golf course are new to study and unfunded. And then these last 3 are all unfunded, but they are new. Robotic filled painting subscription. This is like high tech. Boyd Park mini pitch court, and then hole 12 bridge rebuild at the golf course. If we go to the other page, all of those are just unfunded. We've updated the expected cost for other alleys based on the cost we've received for the ones we're working on. So before we go to outside funding, any questions on CIP?
I do have one as it concerns the playground equipment. It was my understanding that even though it's already on the books for Cole Park's playground equipment to be replaced, wasn't there like a piece or two coming in this year?
The
early next
wheelchair, is it the wheelchair?
Yeah, the wheelchair swing is on schedule to be erected in end of September. So that's exciting, yeah.
Okay,
Any other questions on CIP?
I don't see any, we're good.
Okay. Outside funding. That always goes over without a hitch. Um, why don't we jump to the salmon colored? Because that's a little bit easier. These are the ones that you guys have kind of considered locked in. So the Boys and Girls Club, last year, we funded them at 20,000. They requested 20,000, so I'm recommending 20,000. The Alamosa Senior Citizens, last year was funded at 17,000. They're requesting 20,000. In here, you'll see, she does a pretty good job breaking down the budget and what they want to put the funds towards. And I do think with them picking up the meals on the Thursday and seeing some of those things, I was fine recommending doing 20,000, which is more than their locked in amount. The South Central seniors, the only reason I reduced them by 300 is just having that 800 made it really hard to award leftover funds to other people. Like, do we award $200 to someone? So I just took them down to a flat 17.5 to help on the other side. So on the other side, Habitat for Humanity, we funded them at 2,500 in 2025. They've requested the same amount, and I was recommending to keep them at 2,500. The same is for the food bank and crisis prevention with La Puente. You can see the amounts we funded, what they requested, and my recommendation is to keep them at the 2025 amount. The Alamosa Bicycle Coalition, they were funded at 1,500 in 2025. They actually did not put a request in. They sent us in information, but they didn't give us a specific requested number. And I will tell you that they are seeing, they have about a $40,000 fund balance, and between their revenue and expenses, expect to add about 5,000 to that. So I felt that I could trim 500 from there to help go towards a new one that we got down below. So you can go back and change it, but I'm just telling you the rhyme and reason. Veterans Coalition, we funded them at 3,500 last year. They've again requested 5,000. I'm recommending keeping them at 3,500. And then we did get a new request from Spark. It's Alamosa RSVP's speaker series. They requested 2,000 and I was recommending 500. If you go to what they do like a speaker series, and they're partnering both at the Bridge and the Senior Center. And it's just on topics that might be relevant for our residents that are of a certain age. And so it's music's influence on aging and well-being, the most common scams and schemes aimed at seniors, legal documents for seniors, caregiver resources with at-home health. They just have different types of speaker series, but then they also tie into volunteerism. And so they're pulling in a lot of senior citizens to then volunteer in our community as well. And so it's pretty neat from a community building perspective, in a pretty clean budget. There's two reasons I didn't recommend more. One, there wasn't enough to stay under 70,000, and I felt the senior center kind of had been making a case. And then two, from what I can tell from their budget, we're the only one that they're kind of asking, where there could be some other entities that they're asking funding from too. So as I always say, as long as you guys stay below 70, I don't care what you do in between that.
Everybody looks good? All right.
Are these our only ones, like, to move monies around on?
Correct. There was no other
Okay.
applications.
For South Central seniors, just for clarification, even though they didn't submit for 2026, that money is used to pay technically the rent for the kitchen at the senior center. Is that accurate?
Correct. And Lexi has reached back out to them to say you don't really have a choice. You have to submit paperwork to us. I think she was confused and maybe didn't read the email right or stuff like that. So we are getting the paperwork from them.
Okay, if they don't submit, knowing that that money goes to the senior center specifically, for the kitchen rental, is that something that we can move into the senior center bucket with that caveat of this is for the rent for,
Well, my recommendation is to fund South Central seniors at 17,500.
okay.
Yeah.
Regardless of if they turn in paperwork?
They're going to turn in the paperwork. Yeah.
No worries.
So that's it.
That's it.
Do
Right,
you-
any-
Sorry, you
No.
go.
I was gonna ask council, any questions or comments for staff?
It is a
Okay.
work session too.
Yes, we'll open it up.
I brought this up in a one-on-one with Heather, I think a month ago or two, because they were getting into the budget season and that, and I said that everybody is tightening up their budgets, so I just want to appreciate all you guys for doing that across the board. And then I look at, I want to look at us in the mirror too, and I've always brought this up, but so I'm just gonna bring it up again, but maybe we don't need to go somewhere for our city council retreat. And we can tighten up some money there, because everybody else is doing it. Just an idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Mijo. Any other comments? Counselor Cripps?
Thank you. Just a huge thank you, guys. You put a lot of work into this and it shows. So, and you can still get through it with a smile on your face. So it's appreciated.
And then I'll just wrap things up before no, I won't wrap things up yet because I'll forget to do the comments. So, in our work sessions, we now do, comments to where we allow audience participants to make comments if they, so please. We do ask that you keep your comments to within 3 minutes. If you're still speaking at the 3-minute mark, I would politely ask you, to stop making, comments at that time. We'll start off with the audience participants who are here right now, and then we'll go to Zoom. If we have anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments during this work session time, please come up to the podium and we'll bring a mic.
You got it, Brent?
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I just have one small comment, concern. I didn't have the budget in front of me, so I couldn't follow along as well as I wanted to in this session. However, I heard 10% reduction in police funding for this year. Was that what the first statement you said? Okay. I wanted to clarify, because that would be very worrying to me, especially in the current climate. And having been a police officer and hearing less when it's more is always needed with this kind of thing, I was concerned. I will review the budget when it's publicly available, and if I have any additional concerns, I will proceed there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. And we'll go to the Zoom participants now. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature that's at the bottom of your screen, and we will recognize you to give you an opportunity to make some comments during this segment of the agenda. Thank you, Ms. Suzanne. I don't see anyone on Zoom, so we'll go ahead and close the citizen comment and bring it back to staff. And then I'll wrap things up after staff.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what we were talking about that could have led to the confusion about a 10% reduction in police. That's nowhere in the budget. Any reduction in any of the line items we have in police is mostly related to some of the grants either changing or going away type of situation. But there's not any kind of reduction in operational expenses.
That is correct. All our reductions were grants that have ended and stuff, so I think there was like 15,000 and one stuff, so, but there was nothing, no reduction, it was just grants.
Okay.
I'll
Brad?
also point out that there was a $17,000 increase in IT for public safety related software.
Yeah, and that is one thing we did. We moved some of the IT expenses and took the funding with that out of police and put it in IT where it needed to be.
Thank you for that clarification because I'm glad this is being recorded so that nothing is getting out that the police department is taking cuts. That's something we don't want at this time.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can tell you when we were meeting with Brandon and going over the different software, there was some new software that police had identified that they needed. And not knowing how all the numbers were going to come together, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to afford it, but we can. And so there's enhancements to their capacity as well.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So any other comments before we wrap things up and allow you all to get home to your families? Nope. Okay. I just want to thank you all so very much. Every year, you all put in so much time and energy into preparing all of this. And I know it takes a lot from you. So thank you so very much and keep up the great work, everyone. Really looking forward to us implementing some of the things we have in the budget. Appreciate it. Oops, go ahead.
Do you guys feel like we need part of the work session next Wednesday to be for budget, or can we just do the other topics? Other topics? They're fun zoning and gingerbread childcare discussion.
Okay, other topic looks like it.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
job, everybody. Thank you.